Good afternoon, everyone. That is a movement that's been around for a while. That is concerned about higher education. And the theme of today's is this afternoon session is Malaysian education crisis. A politician that crisis from this leadership of this but politicians with a lot of the crisis in Malaysian higher education. There is such a crisis, a lot of factors. And this afternoon, the speakers, starting with the Secretary of Iraq, crisis, the crisis, without us.
So my presentation today will be freedom as a measure of excellence. Being the first speaker, I was so at least give some idea and by and freedom. Outline will be doing a historical development rights. Give some of our let's say our on tennis rights. And then people that if you don't tennis rights, nothing will happen. But actually there are a lot of people see how much. So we have a lot of monitoring organizations, and they just monitor and use that word for Malaysia, which we have been ignoring all this one. With the situation in Malaysia in terms of the level of crime. And then I'll talk about our project, the Malaysian Academic Movement. This we trying to produce a document on the state of Malaysian University. Okay? So this is in line of like President Omar this year giving a talk on the state of the address. So Bra is going to be the state of the university's address. Okay. Even before they exist a university, he was already a victim of breach of academic rights. Socrates was sentenced to death by the government of Athens. Crime is for corrupting the minds of Athens. So Socrates as the first of breach of academic rights. So in the European civilization, the first university was formed in Bologna, Italy, and the formation of this university was by the Roman Emperor Rosa, and produced a document, Authentica Edita, which basically is the first document on academics. basically teacher or educator is basically the same level as clergyman. So basically when he travels, he is not to be subject to any taxes, any toll or whatever. Right? And one of the special things that whenever there's any wrongdoing committed by the teachers, they can request that they to be tried by their peers and not by the civil government, civil courts. And then the next major jump in the academic rights movement is the Hamburg Declaration in 1810. So basically introduced now. Previously, universities were just for research and teaching. Hamburg introduced the idea that universities is also must do research. So we have the rights of academic teach, rights to learn, freedom to write, to conduct research, and also there's this unity of teaching and research. So the next milestone in the development of academic rights in the New World in Argentina is the student revolution at Córdoba University. One of the outcome, or major outcome of this revolution is that now if you look at the constitution of most of the Latin American countries, there is a provision for academic rights. And in fact, there's for Argentina and a few other countries, a university is regarded as a separate region within the country. The police, whenever there's any crime committed on campus, it is the vice chancellor that must invite the police to come to investigate. Or else the police cannot come in. Okay? So the campus is basically like equivalent to a foreign embassy. So these are the modern day reference document. So you have these four organizations: the American Association of University Professors, European University Association, International Association of Universities, and also the European Union. But the main chief reference document that we use is the one introduced by the UNESCO in 1997, a recommendation concerning the status of higher education teaching personnel. Don't be confused by the title. Actually, the document outlines not just the rights of the academic staff, but also the rights of the universities, and also the rights and responsibility of the government. Okay? So the tripartite responsibility and rights document. Academic right does normally when you talk about academic right, we talk about academic freedom and university autonomy. Yeah? But actually there's four other components of academic right which I think a lot of us tend to ignore. There is university accountability, collegiality, security of tenure, and academic obligation. University accountability, that means the university must be able to respond and says that why so and so was promoted to professor. Okay, university cannot say just keep silent whenever someone says that why A was promoted to professor or why B was not promoted. That means by accountability. University is spending 5 million to build a building. The university must be able to respond and say why they spend 5 million on the building. Collegiality, they mean the involvement of the academics in running of the university. Okay? That's why we have election of the Senate, election of dean, election of head of department, which we in Malaysia do not have that privilege. Security of tenure, that means a lecturer must not be in fear of losing his job because of his position that he takes. So one way you can look is that the university must have a major percentage of the staff to be permanent staff. Okay? Contract staff, temporary staff is a no-no. Basically, it's basically to be kept as small as possible. Okay? Even though knowledge is required for temporary staff, but it should be tried to be kept as small as possible. Academic obligation. So we, as academic, we are given this academic freedom. We have this obligation obligation to the public for giving us that academic freedom. We must do research. We must be involved in society. A lot of us forget that we are required to we have a societal responsibility in our society, in our country. We are not just to produce papers, I said. Okay? We must make something with our research so that if you go to a house in Kuala Terengganu, any house Kuala Terengganu, you will be able to find something that comes from your research or something that comes from your university. Okay? You go to a house, how many books in the house from University of Malaysia or from USM? Okay? So that we must have that target, something from our research and something from our involvement in society to be seen in the homes. Okay, monitoring organization, these are the monitoring organizations that I mentioned earlier. There's many more. So these are currently they are quite active. And they produce reports, and a lot of them has not been very good for Malaysia, which I think is something that our press does not carry. Yeah? So I just take an example of one of these monitoring organizations, Panelists. They produce this academic freedom monitor. So for the last 2 years, they already did 2 critical reviews of Malaysia. Both of them from University of Malaysia. One is because of the university requirement asking them to change the panelists on the forum on our general election. And the second one is a recent event during Barack Obama's visit to Malaysia, where you have a number of students protesting against the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, and University of Malaysia is taking action against them. Now, this thing is not because somebody complained to them, somebody gave information. Yeah? This is because they pick up the story from the press. Okay? So don't say that Grab complained to Scholar Grace. Okay? So the current situation in Malaysia, we have this monitoring organization that look at online press to get the assessment of Malaysia. Malaysian universities, whenever a news comes up about that university, the university does not respond. Or university respond, they give a vague answer. This is according to peraturan sekian after university. And stop there. They do not respond. Yeah? So when you get that kind of response, they say that okay, there's something wrong in Malaysia. And then our level compliance with UNESCO regulation is not in par with recognition. And Malaysia is trying to dream to have becoming an integral hub, but without changing our academic rights. The problem with that. And there's a shift in assessment of universities and academics. Now we're looking for quality, particularly input, impact instead of research product, and then we got to look more on societal benefit and less on individual limits. And one thing that we need to tell all that scholar agrees is trying working on a ranking of universities in their academic freedom index. So if Malaysia is not prepared, I think we'll be way down the list. Okay, this is a project we are doing, which is looking at collecting and analyzing media reports. So we are looking at all the different reports, so you can see example of some of the breach of academic rights that we have. Position dropping, unemployed graduates, political difference in universities. The attacks, education and attacks, before we have mentioned rankings. Beside the three common one, we also have the new one, and also coming up, two coming up. Video is basically trying to equivalent to PISA for undergraduate. So we will see how much our graduate tuition. Academics, freedom of expression, we have problem of removal forum from panel, freedom of travel. We have this one professor from UPM managed to sue the US government, so we will try this. And we have this complaint about participant to a conference was not given a visa. Security of tenure, needing to change of condition of appointment. So the cases where you use easy change because I like some percent is improve, give an individual promotion. So this guy goes to court and you want to go get promotion. Promotion contracts, that's for everyone. Even students also they have a lot of problems. For this section in students, and also there's one case of a student who had AIDS, the universities which will take his diploma, basically the university trying to see, they suspect he's gay and they want to investigate because he's his partner and that sort of thing, which is irrelevant. So somebody is going to get diploma. So in conclusion, just now I said, we only bother about academic freedom and individual autonomy, but we tend to ignore all the others. So thank you very much. Terima kasih, Malaysia. God accepted. So I accept the love for trying to talk. Also, my email. Also, we have the blog for Academic Malaysia. Please look it up. Okay, just blog Academic Malaysia. Blogspot. We have all this development in the various items of interest for us at academic. Please apply the name of draft. You can get a form from the blog. And also one of our current activities is trying to collect donation for Gaza. So please, if you get extra points or whatever, please contribute. You can have details about the collection in the blog page. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosli, for a succinct presentation. We leave the questions till the end. Okay? So without further ado, Manan, with this presentation.
Okay, thank you. There's a problem with the computer. I'll just stand there and press on it. Okay, the title of my paper today is The Draining of Malaysian Universities. I think we are draining a lot of money, a lot of resources, human capital and everything to university and yet producing very little.
Yeah.
Let me introduce, a university is a place and that you don't have to produce something. This is according to Newman, but of course, the definition of university, there are two. One is from Francis Bacon, the utilitarian person, and of course Newman, which is very Aristotelian. The training of university, I see these 7 factors. One regarding faculty, second students, then managerial universities, research funding, employees, environment, politics, and too many universities. Why I'm talking about brain drain? Of course, there are a lot of brain drain. When we are talking about brain drain, I'm talking in relation to the university's brain drain. Of course, there are a lot of brain drain among scientists, engineers going overseas for greener pastures, better living conditions, more freedom, and all these things. But high caliber academics and scientists are drawn to academic centers overseas, where there are better cluster of research and innovative centers. And foreign academics are moving to world-class universities. If we were to have world-class university, of course, foreign academics are coming. Because in our southern neighbor, a lot of foreign academics, there are more than 50% are foreign academics, of course, about 60 to 70% were from Malaysia. And then, of course, this is the brain drain. The brain drain, one is, I think, is the human capital flight. The financial flight is not a problem so much, but the human capital flight will cause also the financial flight and other forms of drains. Brain drain in this context is simply a means of mass exodus of highly trained, well-experienced academics from countries with unsatisfactory conditions of service to those with better conditions like Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, the US, and all this. I have my light in my arm. I need to press the cover. Okay, I'm going very fast here. There are 3 types of internal brain drain. There is so-called internal brain drain, 3 types of internal brain. That is, we move from the public IPTA to, for example, to the IPTS or the private sector. And then there is a movement between the same sector in Malaysia, for example. But it is not lost to the country, but it's a loss to that organization. And then a movement from Malaysia academic sector to another country, for example, to Singapore. It can create problems for country of origin, but not a loss to the continent of Asia. And then there is this external brain drain. External brain drain means loss of Asia's academic manpower to other continents. That is what's happening now. And then also we have a temporary brain drain. Migrants return to countries of origin after years of absence. We are hoping that they are coming back here. And then you have permanent brain drain, of course. Migrants' absence becomes very prolonged, and they have to become natural citizens of those countries where they are working. And then there are a lot of pull factors, we call it, addressing factors that, for example, higher wages and income, high standard of living, and all these things are listed here. And of course, meritocracy, transparency, and intellectual freedom, which we are fighting in our draft, but we are yet to be there. And then there is a push factor. The push factor, I think we have a lot of push factor here in our country. Low and eroding, we are not having low and eroding wages and salaries, because Malaysia University have one of the highest salaries in Asia, even higher than Japan if you go on parity. Except in Japan, you have 5 months bonus. That 5 months bonus only offset. But other than that, I think it's higher than Japan, our salary. Because when you start 7,000, where can you get that? Because when we first started, it's 1,400 with your PhD. Now with PhD, 7,000. And yet, we are complaining we don't have enough. But I think we have to look at other lists down there. Underutilization of qualified personnel, I think we have that. Lack of research and other facilities, declining quality of education system, discrimination of appointment and promotion. We have a lot of lists of that. And lack debatable when you say that. But 50%, I'm just giving some data from Solomon here. 50% of all foreign science and engineering PhD remain in the US. If those people went to study there, 50% will stay on. And there was striking difference among that. Because students from PhD from East and South Asia, Indian subcontinent, and Korea, China, and these places, they tend to stay there after their approximate degrees. Whereas in the UK data, I say that 59% of foreign PhD leave the country after degree completion. However, nearly all PhD graduates from Malaysia and Turkey in the UK return to their home country. I mean, almost a lot. Of course, there are people who stay there, but I mean, if you take in terms of percentage. And this is the H-1B visa, which is a visa for specialist education and specialist job. I mean, if you are a mathematician, physics, and all this in the US, they gave, these are approved in 2007. These are the 13 universities that approved the number of. So every year, how many number of PhDs or postdoctorate? But I'm showing you like University of Chicago, University of Illinois, Chicago. But if you see the other, the IT company, the Infosys have about 5,000 visa approved per year, and Intel about 3,000 per year. So all the other big IT companies have like 10, 20 times the number of university F1 visa. But we're talking about academics here. And then there is another concept after the brain drain, that is so-called the brain drain. It refers to an increased number of highly trained, foreign-born professionals entering a country to live and work there. That's what we are thinking that Malaysia will be. Okay, then brain drain is the opposite of brain drain in the brain exchange equation. Of course, there are still different circulation in the brain exchange there. If you read the World Bank report, there are about this brain up and brain out. The brain drain can be equated with reverse brain drain also. When doctors went to study, decided overseas and gained experience, and decided to return home. And of course, there are some other forms of brain drain where you send money back home. But and in case of Malaysia, we have two things. In March 2 August, in 2008, it is reported that 305,000 Malaysians migrated overseas to Singapore, Australia, US, UK, and many other countries. And then that's when Malaysia initiated the brain drain program under Moscow, under BGM. So the BGM here determined to attract 50 top fire scientists and 500 to 1,000 prominent Malaysian or foreign scientists to be invited back to Malaysia by 2010. Of course, BGM is a brainchild of Rawi and it failed flatly. And then emerged another one, Talent Corporation, in 1st January 2011. PM90 aimed to lure 700,000 Malaysian working abroad back to Malaysia, so far under the Returning Expert Program, REP. Of course, we have seen, I think, in the some of the portal, the news portal and Malaysian Insider, Malaysian TV and all these things. And I think there were a few following here on this brain drain issue. It is criticized that the incentive offered under the RDP is not attractive enough. And there were local complaints also. It's more strategic to retain the local talent that we have right now and cheaper rather than persuade somebody who has been living for 10, 20 years abroad to come back. He may stay for 1 or 2 years. Of course, coming back cannot acclimatize to our academic condition. And then I have this another terminology called brain block. Actually, I first found out this terminology, brain block. This is not a brain block in terms of medical. In the Bangkok Post in 1994, how brain block happened in the Thai academics then. It was an editorial then. Because, for example, we have the brain block here. Despite having high numbers of PhD and other professional qualifications we fail to accept in our academic talent. I think we have very high number of PhDs in our university, and yet we have not made any breakthrough so far. And then also we are here to uphold university as a thinking hub or as a center of excellence. Of course, it's futile if it's a top-down facility that we have a center of excellence. Of course, we built a center of excellence, but it never emerged to be a center of excellence. And I think another thing, universities took a backseat instead of being the leading edge of change in the society. I think, of course, you know whom we are to blame there. And then we are unable to provide critical thinking of and culture of creativity. And the other one, how many minutes? 5 minutes. 4. After 5 minutes. And after we are having this university terrorism, equivalence, focus on vocational education and mainstream. We are not unique. We treat university as schools. Everyone follows the same curriculum. Undergraduate, even now postgraduate, also we have to follow the same curriculum. I don't know where we are going. I mean, that is a road to world-class university, probably. Yeah, and then the train. We have too many universities. They are all comprehensive universities. And huge expenditure and financial train. We have 21, I think, IPTA, and everyone wants to be a comprehensive university. Even in Canada, you have 3 types of university. One comprehensive university, one like a smaller university, and one a full-scale university. You cannot, everyone, I mean, you start university today, and by 2 years, you're already operating a PhD program. You graduate with PhD today, the next day, you know, admit a PhD student. And of course, research funding is limited here, and we have not been making any breakthrough in the last 30 years. We are draining all this unresearch money, research fund. And a funding perspective, academic to study overseas at skyrocketing costs, and the rate of return is minimal. Few world-class university, but a lot of mediocre university are selling this program. And draining the academic talents also, and the burden of appointing mediocre academics to the university. I read a book called The Burden of Bad Ideas. This is the burden of mediocre academics. Not the burden. So let me go straight to my conclusion. I have a tale of 2 universities, but I mean that will be one presentation. I'm teaching the Chuah and Manan. And Government president in Malaysia, first we have to tackle, for example, governance. We need to revise the structure of governance, excellent, upward, of course, structure, culture of excellence, and reward and recognition, proper remuneration, and better terms of service. And of course, we have ugly relation. We have to stop racial discrimination. It's still happening in every university right now, even though we deny it. And you know always a net person who were not promoted because of their skin, because of their religion, because of the political lining of political ideology or what. And then you have to have other initiatives, for example, brain sharing, brain wisdom, and we have to unlock and unleash reckoning acts, archive bureaucracy and brain block, and get rid of all these obstacles. And I think, thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Omar. Okay. Move on to the next speaker. Sharifah, Sophia.
When I presented yesterday, I did not use PowerPoint because it was cultural studies paper. Today it was okay because this is academic paper, association paper. I am a member of GERAC since 2012. I don't know, as a GERAC member since 2012. And at the moment I'm an assistant secretary Secretary for Persatuan Pegawai Akademik Unimas. So today I'm going to present a survey that we have conducted first in 2012, in which I have presented in APAC, Asia Pacific Academic Conference, organized by Iraq and UN. So this will be a comparative study between what we have done in 2012, and in this year we have compiled new data with the same set of questions. So that will be a comparative between what we have obtained in 2012 and what we have done recently, 2014. So this is a survey about the awareness among the academic staff in UNIMAS when it comes to promotion. And we have polled lecturers from senior lecturer's position, DS52, lecturer, DS45, and Guru Bahasa, DG41. So these are the three clusters that we formed. Okay, why this academic promotion is important? Because that is the sole motivation and that is the aim that we usually have in our career, to progress further, not just to remain where we are when we first joined the university. And as an association member, we have received more than 90% of the grievances sent to us are mainly on promotion, either from Guru Bahasa to lecturer to senior lecturer, or senior lecturer to Professor Madla. This has been a consistent grievances among our members and our non-members. And therefore, we found it important to do a bit of study about what promotion is, and do they understand what promotion, the criteria for promotion. So we have 10 questions. We have 10 questions in our survey. We ask them which category they are in, when do they apply for promotion, when do they think they will be promoted. If you apply this year, do you think you'll be promoted this year as well? No. Okay. So that's a bad question to ask, isn't it? Next, how important is promotion to you? And we give them a scale from 0 to 100%. Of course, it's important, but you will see later that the range from 50 to 100%, there are clusters. How well do they understand? The next question: how well do they understand the criteria? 0 to 100%. How well are they progressing towards their promotion? I want to be promoted, but how much have you done towards your promotion? That is what our next question was. Next, do they think promotion should be time-based or merit-based? And finally, and then we have a set of variables here. What are the criteria in their favor and not in their favor? And we have listed both academic criteria as well as non-academic criteria. We know this from our experience that people get promoted not simply on their academic merits, but other subjective, and most of the time non-academic factors. The next question: would they appeal if they not be promoted? And finally, do they know the procedures to appeal? So this is the result of our survey. Okay, the numbers of respondents that we have. In 2012, we had 75 academic lecturers participated in the study. What we do is, we appointed a representative in each faculty. We have 8 faculties in UNIMAS, so we appointed a representative for each faculty, and the representative will distribute the questionnaire to their members. And this must be voluntary on a voluntary basis. And that is why we cannot get as much participants as we hope for. Some faculties do not encourage their members to be cooperative to the association. And therefore the numbers are not really that great, yeah, the participants. However, when we do it in 2014, we have an increase of 5 participants. So 75 in 2012 and 80 in 2014. And this is the breakdown according to the position. The lecturer, 22, 35, there's a, and then lecturer, 43, 35, the lecturer, 52, yeah. Lecturer, 45, PS, 45, and teachers, 10, 10. That's the number of response that we have. So we asked them, this is for 2014, we asked them, when do they plan to apply? So there's a huge for 2014, for this year. This is across all categories, yeah? 15, 16, 17. So this is 14, 15, 16, 17. So they waited maybe from now 14, 3 years. In the next 3 years, there will be a higher number of lecturers expected to apply. Expect, I say. 18, 19, 2020. 2020. It's a lot of people who are actually in 2020. So from this year, 2020, and never. That's another search here. So this is a response on when do they plan to apply. And you can see here, this is the questions on when do they plan to apply, don't plan to apply, and then likely to be promoted. Can I just bring your attention to plan to apply, and when do they think there will be likely to be promoted? So for 2012, for senior lecturer, 81% plan to apply, meaning they plan, they plan to apply. That is in our 2012 survey. And then from this percentage, 81.8%, only 54% think they will be promoted. Only 54%. 50% are more, only 54% think they have a good chance to get promoted. In 2014, almost the same number, 81%. But do they think they'll be promoted? Slightly higher, 67.6%. 7.6%. For lecturers' position, DS 45, in 2012, 81% think, yeah, I want to apply. But only 74% think they have a chance to be promoted, which is higher than this position. Then senior lecturer to Professor Madhya. For lecturers to senior professor, that jump is slightly higher here. So they think 74% think they have a good chance to be a senior lecturer. Whereas for Aini, senior lecturer, only 54% think they have a good chance to become Professor Madhya. Next, teachers, EG 41. 90%. 70% think they have a good chance of getting promoted. And in 2014, 10 respondents, which is less than 100%, who wants to apply for promotion, and 100% also think they can be promoted. Although, 100% thinks they can be promoted. So this is for Guru Bahasa. Why is this? To compare 90% here to 70%, which is very low, whereas for this year, there's a sudden surge of optimism. Why? Because starting this year, UNIMAS has allowed Guru Bahasa to apply for promotion. Starting this year and onwards. Previously, they applied according to lecturer's track. Now they have a Guru Bahasa track. So they can go DG 41, DG 44, 48, and there will be time dates, just like in school. Okay, so this is a result of people's effort. We have since 2011 we have been working to get our Guru Bahasa to have us a teacher's track for that. So only this year we have managed to get that for them. importance of promotion. We rank them 75% and above, 50%, and less than 50%. That is how important promotion is there. So for lecturers, 63% says it is very important. Means they say academic promotion is minimum 70% important in my career. Number 14, 71% is important, very important. For lecturers, again, it is quite high, 62.7%, and then 14 is quite the same here, 62.9%. So they all think promotion is important for them, and for tutors, language teachers, 70% and 70% scored more than 75% for the importance of academic career for them. That's okay. Effort in meeting criteria. So we asked them two questions. Do they understand the criteria? And how well are they progressing towards that promotion? Do they understand the criteria? The understanding is good, means more than 50%. 50% for senior lecturers, 74% understand the criteria, lecturers 74%, and teachers 100%. This is not surprising because this year they were given the briefing. All of them were briefed on the new scheme, DG scheme. So therefore, they have the latest information. Stand and progress towards promotion. So although they understand the criteria 74%, but their progress towards promotion is not quite as high as the overall. 54%, 31%, and 50%. Next, we ask them, what are the factors in their favor? And we rank them according to the lead position. So for senior lecturers, research output, professional services, and field are three important factors that contribute to their promotion, that are in their favor. Three. Research output, professional services, and field. And they happen to be three academic criteria. But if you look at the non-academic criteria, like age, gender, personality, social network doesn't mean like academic network. Social network, availability of vacancies, and higher authority in universities, you will see that the rate is quite not to their favor. Some of them to their favor, some of them not. For example, 60s. 17 says they are not in their favor. This is for the category of 52. And the availability of vacancies, also not in their favor. Social network, also not in their favor. What do we mean by availability of vacancies? Our assumption is academic promotion, no vacancy. Means you can have 10 people become associate professor at one time. This is how I understand it, right? In practice, especially in UNIMAS, the route towards promotion to academic, to associate professor and professor is through administrative duty. You become a dean, you have a good chance of becoming Professor Madya. You become a Kee-Man dekan, you have a good chance of becoming Professor Madya. You become a center, a pengarah institute, you have a good chance of becoming professor. So you don't just go up like that. You have to do this first, and then you go up. And that is what we mean here by vacancies. Doesn't refer to yang 10 orang boleh jadi associate professor serentak. Doesn't mean that. It's the other thing. Oh, sorry. For 45, then you can see the same academic criteria. Research, professional services, and field are high. Are high here. And so does non-academic criteria, like higher authorities in universities. Not favorable to that. availability of vacancies. Tak cukup jawatan mereka. 8 mereka saja boleh jadi. 40. And what else? Professional services in India an exception, which is an academic criteria, but this is not going for them. It's not favorable criteria for them because this is for DS45. Requirement on professional services for DS45 stretch for that. Bahasa. This is reverse. Academic criteria not too high for them. Research output, professional services, except professional services, they can do apa? Reading macam tu. Research output and what is it? Field. It's not that high, isn't it? It's not that. I mean, it's a field, but professional research output is not that high for them. But you can see they score quite well for the non-academic factors. For example, personality. It is favorable to them. Social network, also favorable to them. And availability of vacancies are also favorable to them. There's another opposite, another side of it for that. They score quite well for the non-academic variables. So this is the one. Views on time-based. Should we do time-based? Should we not do time-based? You can see here that time-based ranked quite high across the board. For senior lecturer, good. Time-based, good. For lecturers, yeah, we want time-based too. Of course, teachers, 100%. This is their scheme. But for our scheme, this is Razak's scheme, they also state their preference for a time-based compared to the levels. Okay. If you don't get it, will you appeal? Lecturers, yeah, we will appeal. But for senior lecturer, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. For tutors, 100% they will appeal. Okay, now you know you won't get it, so you appeal. But what is your chances of getting it and getting your appeal to your favor? Much lesser. So, walaupun I appeal, I don't think I will get it anyway. 11%, except for Guru Mahasiswa 7%, which actually, compared to that one, there's still 30%, don't think they will get it. So that's it, that we need, my presentation today. For Persatuan, our lesson, we have gained 2 lessons here. Number 1 is that we have to get the university authorities to explain to our members what are the criteria for promotion, and at the same time to give statistics to our lecturers so that they know how many people apply and how many get it, so that they will have that need. A more reasonable expectation they have. Number 2, it also tells us that despite doing this study for 2 years, 2 years ago, and now, we don't see much variation in their responses. This tells us that despite the change in leadership, university leadership, things are still the same on the ground. So that is our lesson today. So thank you.
Next is call from Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'm not a social scientist, I'm a chemist by training. I'll go through very quickly. I've got too many slides, actually. Okay, brief introduction. I want to talk today about publication, citation, impact factors, and the myth and reality surrounding this thing. Just a brief introduction about us academics, we are pillars of education and so forth. But basically, when we work in university, we have two core business. One is the generation of knowledge, the other one is the dissemination of knowledge. That's our two core business. And with that, we have to do research, but however, some academics, they're not too passionate about their research, they prefer to teach, but we are all expected to be hybrids. Actually, we have submitted the full paper, so some of the reference you see in this presentation actually relates to the paper. If you like to have the full paper, maybe Manan can give to you. So, a lot of academics these days, they publish mainly because of their KPI. KPI I think is an insult to academia. An insult to academia. We should not. This is the thing. But I will. Manan has a definition of the university. I've taken this from somewhere. Actually, to me, the word university is defined as a merger of two words: unity and diversity. To illustrate where we are individuals from diverse backgrounds, but we are united in the quest for knowledge and truth. Different. So a role of teacher and a role of academic is different. Teacher use fixed syllabus and so forth. But as an academic, we have bigger roles. In institutional building, national development, nation building, pursuit of truth and learning, committed to strong academic leadership without being bureaucratic, to educate our students to do self-exploration and independent learning and to trigger the interest in our students to want to know and understand more about the subject matter. But this afternoon, I want to talk mainly about the publishing and journal impact factor. I will focus more on researcher ID, only because in researcher ID, whatever is in there is our control, what we put in. If you don't put in, it's not there. If you don't put in, it's not there. So there are all sorts of criteria, why we want to publish and so forth. But I want to illustrate in terms of, I'm taking three real examples. I've taken the names out, except mine the name is still there. So when we talk about productivity defined by the number of research endeavors conducted, there's a lot of talk about quantity. A lot of talk about quantity in academic promotion. University is still looking at quantity. So I will illustrate that you can see people with quantity sometimes have zero quality. Have zero quality. So don't just look at the numbers. Look beneath the numbers and understand what are these measures. So a journal ranking should not be assumed to be a definitive indicator of the relative quality of the individual papers within the journal, and that any ranking should be handled with great deal of care when being used for decision making. In fact, recently in the UK, the funding agencies have been told that they cannot use citation impact factor to make decisions whether to award a grant or not. They've been told by the select committee of the House of Commons that they're not allowed. They're not allowed because you measure different things. You publish your paper in a journal with high impact factor, doesn't mean your paper is good. Okay? So there's a lot of game here. If you want to play a game, you can. Anyway, this impact factor sometimes is not relevant to the social scientists. It's more relevant to the sciences and the engineering. And ultimately, you see, what is important, we as researchers should publish our work in a relevant journal where it matters. Don't just go, I give an example. There was a researcher who do research in about geology of the Norfolk coastline. Okay, and he published in a very obscure journal that has zero, impact factor. It's in the Society of the Norfolk something, but people who publish in Science and Nature cite his work. So that shows the importance of your publication. Not where you publish, but who cites your work, which journal cites your work. So this is something that we don't look at. So apart from ranking, the quality of research should not be solely dependent on impact. The number of times the researcher's work has been cited by others, but even this, if you look at number of citation, actually doesn't mean they read your paper. Okay? They read your paper. What is sometimes important is the number of downloads. But sometimes people download your paper, they still don't read. So you have all these measures. So sometimes they say academics are considered influential by the quantity of publication and also the fact that their work is frequently cited by others. The popular notion that if one work is not cited, then it's not worth doing or has less impact. So we have all these measures with regard, there are many other things, the reputation of the journal. Nowadays people tend, I will show that all these bogus journals are on the increase. What is more important, the journal's editor, review board. Nowadays sometimes we get invitation every day to sit on editorial boards of all these, what is known as predator journals actually nowadays. Predator journals. That's the terminology used. So what's important, the rankings, the opinion, the journal longevity, rate of acceptance, and the circulation. So in the sciences, there's a lot of talk about H index, which was put up by us. Actually, us is a physicist. He's a physicist. So they say that a scientist have a H index. If your end paper, if you rank your paper with the highest number of citations to the lowest, if your end paper has a minimum of n number of citations, then that is your H index. Okay, that is your H index. And there are many modifications of the index. These are all just academic. So this actually prompts scholars and academics to engage more aggressively in doing research, but more so they're doing research not for the sake of knowledge. And there's a lot of academic misconduct with regard to citation. There's a lot of academic misconduct, chasing H index, they cut corners, they plagiarize. So authors need to provide accurate and responsible report, and reviewers need to provide fair and equitable judgment on journals. So honesty is very important in academia. Journal editors should also exercise their responsibility without fear of favor. So failure to ensure accurate citation leads to plagiarism, and of course nowadays many of our students, they think because they get it from internet they don't need to cite. They think internet is general knowledge, but sometimes it's not. So I will go too quickly. But what I want to emphasize, I want to take 3 examples. They're nameless except the last one. Okay. Because I forgot to take my name out. And here is an author whose number of citation is 12,156. Many of us would love to have even one-tenth of that, and the H index of 42. But if you look beneath the surface, of course, Rosli would say discography is a field which is highly published. But you see, even though this is the meaning the field you do your research in, okay, discography, chemistry, physics, and all. And if you look at in terms of collaboration, there's not much collaboration with good even universities. If you look at the university in terms of collaboration, there's not really any many of the top universities. But what is more important is even citation. You remember back papers in Sharifah far outweigh the chemistry papers. If you look this one, see 447 to 47. But if you look at citation, you see chemistry gets cited much more than crystallography. So sometimes your number of citation depends also in the field you work in. Some fields are not much cited, So don't take those numbers as definitive. And if you look at people who cite the work also, where do they work and which institution? People who cite the work, which institution they come from? You can hardly see any decent universities, any decent universities. And you look at suddenly the growth in the number of citations. From someone who doesn't have a citation, you must have 20 here, minimum of 20, the researcher ID. From someone who has 0 pre-92, suddenly have hundreds of citations per year. This is a game many researchers play. Okay, this is a game many researchers play. This is another one. This is another one. Quite high, 4,000, which is index 34. And this one is worse. Because if you look, this person is working in every field under the sun. And if you look in terms of collaboration, he doesn't collaborate much. Doesn't collaborate much. And then, if you look by institution that he collaborates with, there's not much. And if you look at the field, people who cite him, everything under the sun. But you look at citation by institution, there's nothing. There's nothing, not like many decent university. And similarly, here is a person who pre-2004 does not have any citation. Nobody cites his work. Nobody cites his work. And recently, it's been announced as one of the top 3 researchers in the country. Top 3 researchers in the country. So, anyway, this is mine. Not very good. Just 16,802. Not that many citations. But if you look at the field, I don't work in that many fields. Basically, I'm a chemist. I don't publish my research structure. This is outcome of my last sabbatical in France, where I did protein crystallography actually. So I have protein crystallography is classified under molecular biochemistry. And this is my collaboration. These are the universities I collaborate with, but what is more important, you look at the number of citations. If you do crystallography, you see chemistry gets cited better than crystallography. But look at the collaboration, even though the numbers are not there, those who cite my work, reciting articles, those who cite my work, they come from this country, but what is more important from which institution? Those who cite the work, which institution? Forget the first 3. USM is self-citation. Multimedia, I was there for 3 years. But look at usually Western Australia, Cambridge, North Texas, British Columbia, Hong Kong, NRS in France, National University of Singapore, London, Turin, Lund, Australian National University. So, what I want to stress is, look below the numbers and look at in terms of citing. Even in 88, which is a year after I finished my PhD. But some people, when they were 60, they started to get citation. So they're playing the game. And this is quite constant. And this is what I'm talking about, this predatory publishers. It's now on the increase. You look at the increase, it's crazy. Number of publishers, these are predatory publishers. You look at 2011, there were only 18. This year alone, there's now 477 predatory publishers. So, send your paper to the established journals, not to all these journals where you have to pay. And even standalone when they are published by individuals. We have a publisher run by some international student in Penang. You know, and professors in Malaysia are sending their papers there. You know, so be careful. You know, even standalone, you know, there are many around the place. And I just want to go quickly 3 cases of misconduct in relation to publications. One is lost in translation, whereby a professor, out of 15 chapters in a book, actually 13, 11 with direct translation from a 1960 English textbook. And I thought the other 2 was genuine, is still not genuine, translated from journal. However, no disciplinary action was taken. Regarding this misconduct, was allowed to teach, but however, he was not allowed to deliver his professional lecture, but still retired as a professor. Case 2, whereby a professor plagiarized a PhD student research proposal. Plagiarized, got a grant, you know, and his stolen proposal was awarded the research grant, you know. He was lying, however, the student's name was nowhere in the grant. So in the end, he got only a verbal warning. Everyone lived happily ever after except the student who wrote the proposal. And the third case involved a lecturer who borrowed another lecturer's student's final year project. This is publish the work, but put the lecturer's name now. In this case, the co-author, the student supervisor is the one complainant. So in the end, the supervisor reported this to the university, but because the lecturer was under probation, his contract was not renewed. But lessons from the case is that many academics, because in pursuit of publication, a lot of them actually cut corners. A lot of them cut corners. So when you look at impact factors of journal, be careful. You know, sometimes it doesn't mean much, and some journals, I quote you Acta Crystallographica. For 1 year, Acta Crystallographica impact factor is always around 2, but for 1 year it shot up to 48. Only because of one paper. Because you must understand the formula for impact factor. And the last 3 years, divided by the papers. We shot up to 48, second year went down to 24, and later on went back to 2. So, see, you publish in that year doesn't mean your paper is impact factor 48. You know, so always understand what impact factor is about, because there's a lot of myths about it. You know, there's a lot of myths about it. Thank you very much.
Final presentation, right?
I think first of all, I need a correction. The title of my presentation in the abstract book is Engaging Community. I think that enough engagement is community. And engaging university is actually community engagement. The title of the paper is community. So some reflection movement. This is not a study, but basically a concern, regarding community engagement. And community engagement has been the new thing now in the university. It's not supposed to be the new thing, but it's an in thing now in the university, right? Especially the last 5 years. So as someone who has been trained in community development, community work, and has been actively engaging with the community through NGOs and all that, you just get concerned about where and how the university directing this whole idea of community engagement. Basically, I do not know, maybe now there are more universities that have got a community engagement program, but from 2007, the government has directed 4 research universities to get community engagement agenda. And I think up to date, all these universities are still determining the direction and trying to conceptualize what community engagement that they're trying to do. And yet we still do not have, after 5 years, any university that measures the impact of their work or the policies that they have come up with. So we all know that at least all these 4 research universities, that they are EDCs of community engagement, the DG EDCs, right? Through the literatures, I think if you actually go through the literatures, and basically when we talk about community engagement, there's 3 regions that is always referred to, the American models of community, the Australian model of community engagement, and the European, the UK's model of community engagement. But interestingly, at the same time, while the university was directed looking at engagement agenda, you notice the Global University Network, or is now called GUNI, the Global University Network integration, also at the same time was trying to get the academics to relook and rethink about what community. Now to start with, this is my own classification. Yeah? First of all, there is the classification of that those academicians who consider the community engagement as a natural element of the academy. I think many of our colleagues have mentioned some from the first one, from Rosli to the end, that people must be engaged in the community. Because basically, university first started in Europe and all that, is the whole idea of saving the souls of the society, because they know little or they're so ignorant. But basically, now we are talking about the intellectuals should have basic functions, of understanding what society is all about. Quoted from Edward's side that says that intellectual, by right, should be the one who should be able to denounce corruption, fairly fight imperfect or oppressive authority. Basically, in other words, the academician should be a group of people who are willing to speak up, for the sake of the society. Or, in other way, it is to actually say that academicians are the one who become the public force that change to promote the public change and also promote the public well-being. These are you will find a group of academicians that actually rethink about this term. Basically, when they talk about community engagement, they believe this is the style of engagement that it should be, because it should not be something that imposed on you, but it's naturally growing, because the academicians take it as their responsibility. Now, in the last two decades of the 20th century, you notice there's a lot of debate about universities being disconnected from society. And this is also seen as another approach why community engagement was raised in the 21st century. Basically because the university, the academician is seen as disconnected with society. Because the university are busy focusing at producing middle class professionals that are really looking into themselves. While I support Sharifah's idea of promotions and all that, but it's also worrying because if you join the university and the first thing that comes to your mind is when will I get promoted promoted, I think that be, some kind of, concern, if you start going into university, let's keep looking at that. But that's the reality. You have to see how you progress in the university. But the first Indo-C program, to me, should not be on promotion. It should be like understanding the meaning of university. Looking at how you should become a part of the book, right? And also, we're busy at playing catching up with international players. So in the last few decades, we heard about Malaysia University Bertaraf Dunia, right? So we all want to become University Bertaraf Dunia, catching up with Ahmad, catching up with and forget about what the society really wants from us, and are we really doing things for the society? Yeah. And there are many academicians who question the scholarship of community English, because this is not research, because you just work with the community. I mean, what is the value of that? So there are groups of academicians that start questioning the scholarship of community. And many also, especially among the scientists, who see the public as only a passive participant in the advancements of knowledge, because they are taught ignorance in the science. You cannot talk to them. They are just compliant group of people, group of participants. And I think many scientists, hard scientists especially, where is Omar? He's not here. We still see the public as just there you are still there. We see public as still as a passive participants. But if you look at the science shop, if any of you are familiar with the science shop as a process of community, basically when science shops first started in France, the idea was actually to get the public to understand science and to look into it and to believe in it and to take part in science. But that is the process they have gone through. And of course, there are a group of academics who believe in academic purism. Academia for academia. Academic for the sake of knowledge only, but not, so this is where you just, philosophize, or you actually study. There's nothing wrong with that too. If you're doing physics theory and all that, and you keep looking at the skies and all that, if other people can make use of that knowledge, doesn't mean that every one of us, must be there on the ground. But we should understand what the basic idea of community. Now, recently, when you look at Malaysian models, you look at when we talk about community engagement, we seem to be looking more at the CSR model. I think sometimes this is the danger of being influenced with the idea of being corporate, looking at the corporate culture. So the university is trying to play the same game as the corporate sector, trying to put up an image of the corporate sector. So they actually place the whole idea of community engagement as civic responsibility. So what happened to that? If you read the write-up by Hollister on UKM, and if you read USM, I didn't get to read UM and UKM. I was looking for that. I didn't get any write-up on UKM. The UM and UKM's models of community engagement. Now, they have the right values. They have the right values, both USM and UKM, for example. But if you look at the actual work done, the actual activities, it's really more towards CSR, It's more towards CSR model. So if you have a time to actually look at that. Now, again, community engagement in the university at international level has been encouraged by, at least by the UNESCO's and, by general model of social accountability just now that Rosli mentioned, and also, by UNI, the Global University Network, who acknowledge community as providers and source of knowledge. So there are different approaches towards community. Now, the idea why we have to look into the approaches because it gives a framework of how the university is going to move on in their activities of community engagement. There are several issues at the moment, as I can observe, and as I go through the whole literature. First of all, the idea of community engagement is not really spelled out in the university fundamental framework. So if you talk about community engagement as your responsibility to provide, promote knowledge, and at the same time acknowledging the importance of the society, the needs of the society, and actually taking the society as your partners in promotion of knowledge, then it has to be spelled out throughout. 5 more minutes. Thank you. You know? And at the same time, we notice that different institutions have different ideas about community engagement. Maybe this is still at early days, but perhaps for many of us who have been academic activists or have been involved in communities that should actually take part in this whole dialogue of community engagement at our university level. And we do not train enough staff of the university, for example, to have skill in facilitating dialogue in conflict resolution, or even developing policy documents. A lot of us do research, and that research is supposed to contribute to policy development, but we are not having enough skill to promote that research into the level of policy development. And so that research can be understood by the policymakers, other stakeholders, as well as the society. And we do not have the practice of, disseminating our results, first of all, to the community. Many of us were worried about writing to the journalists rather than talking to the community and get them to respond to our research. So there is a different ways of looking at these things. Yeah? So I think it depends on the university's approach. Okay? And then the readiness of the non-academic structure of the university is the center of community engagement. I know I joined the PG and was trying to understand what PG is all about, and the whole frustration of my colleagues of dealing with non-academic structure. People have rulings, okay, you have these activities, tak boleh beli makanan, tak boleh beli hadiah untuk kanak-kanak, all these activities, not all these rulings, that actually doesn't make sense. So why do you have a PG? So they are controlling the money in the different ways, in different meaning, in different, totally the opposite idea of the community. And of course, at the university, people who are called advocates or radicals like Omar, Shawkataly, the public voices and all that, the critics, are not well appreciated. Yeah? So you then actually allow the university to popularize a different style of community. People who actually just, big community like ministers that doing all those activities like Nabiakan, Galatan, it's very worrying. It's very, very, very well-furnished mind, in our community. So I think that is something for us to look at. I like to quote Tandon, which he says, Tandon is one of the promoter of Buni and also, still the strong person there. Inside universities, many more changes are needed. A lot of analytical reflection at the curriculum. Whether we actually involve, and when we talk about community engagement, whether we look into our curriculum, does it, does the curriculum take into consideration the whole context of the society, the local society, or the immediate society, or the general community situation. The internal incentive structure of professors and researchers must include civic engagement. Now, I sometimes think that the leadership read this differently, because recently I heard from the Vice Chancellor that maybe each professor must have their own community to prove that this is community engagement, and therefore we will promote it to professorship. And I think, okay, really, quite confusing, okay? But anyway, I'm sure my time has gone to the 3 minutes. I just want to raise the whole question of uncertainties in university. If the university want to promote community engagement, and I think that there's a lot of issues that the university has to resolve. I think our colleagues, the 4 or 5 colleagues just now has mentioned this again and again. Whether we really need to control academician if we want to be the right proper communication. If you need to change the mindset of academic leadership. When the leaderships are the one who actually just being proposed by people outside the university. Now, how do you promote this idea of community engagement? Rewarding knowledge, giving space to people with knowledge, not people with power to abuse knowledge. And this is, I think, something that we must look at. Okay, and again, I repeat it: radicalism, dissent, and advocacy is always strong upon in the university. Okay, so if we need to promote, to sustain community engagement, therefore the freedom of expression, what Rosli has mentioned from the very beginning, freedom of association, knowledge and innovation, practice of inclusiveness, and all this continue. This must be there, and we have to mainstream community engagement throughout the university. Okay, I'm sorry, thank you. In conclusion, genuine community engagement is to be encouraged, and the foundation community engagement must be improved. But I believe the consultation and dialogue within the university and the community regarding genuine community engagement must take now, before we continue to our community next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've got about 20 minutes to discuss issues such as freedom, impact factors, community engagement. Lots of things to discuss, so I won't waste time. So I'll take my questions now, and then answer questions. Yeah.
One of the presenters was when you look at the social network, look at professional services, social network doesn't refer to clearly what story you mentioned, doesn't refer to that. Refers to the non-academic. It can be okay. Such as there has been cases in which when a particular staff got a promotion and that staff refer to people outside and people in position of power. And that people in position of power later connect to the university and said, look, this has happened, and what would you do about it? So that's what has actually happened in real time. So when I refer to social network, it doesn't mean peer networks, it doesn't mean that. Yeah. And there's another definition for social network, which is when the team or the people in the promotion panel are your friends, and also a social network.
I'm from the University of University, and this is such a great fresh air for me to learn from my colleagues in Malaysia about the state of university. I come from a public university. University facility. So it's public characters constantly to the class towards neoliberalism, privatization, corporatization. So I was wondering how my colleagues here have raised very high questions about the direction of Malaysian universities vis-a-vis promotion, publication, and then community engagement. We make all these phenomena, this erosion of the public character of public universities in Malaysia. And it's linked to neoliberalism, as our keynote speaker presented yesterday, Malaysia 2020. It's all still for neoliberalism. Is that correct? And it just comes across how these are connected, the issues raised, and the ongoing erosion of the public character and the public service character of our university.
Thank you.
Let us Sharifah is the promotion of I'm just wondering, for the 5 years you mentioned from the advisory, 5 years is the one who is school or
Yes. So we consistent with the teachers team.
right? If I may share with you, it's like the school in the university, they do not share the same school. This they because they want to when you work and the careers, when you see promotion and you see football and you I'd like to ask a general question. I think you self-promotion or status in universities. And if the three four presenters or three, were to pinpoint, if we want to change something in social science, we can think about changing the structure, such as the structure of the university. One good example would be the Malaysian social structure before Dasar Economic Baru. Dasar Economic NEP or DEP tries to change the Malaysian structure, hoping that the values will come along once the structure is changed. So the changing values of different ethnic groups might change if you change the structure, meaning the structure of opportunities, the structure of economic development, that structure, and then therefore there may be some values might change. Or you change the values first, the debate goes on, you change the values first, then once the community values are changed, then they may change the structure. So if the three of you or the four of you were given this question, given the structures we live under, where there is political interference, there is lack of freedom. These are structures that bind us. And there are values also. Our values can be quite feeble. Let's admit that, regardless of the structure. So which ones do you think we ought to be, given that we have limited capacity to change, and we are all individuals who are very concerned but very limited time and limited power? What do you think will be the issues that we need to get going first? Is it the structure that we need to change? If so, what specific aspects of the academic structure? Because you've given thought to this, and these are very welcoming ideas for us. And I didn't realize there was such a movement. For example, you showed the blindness after this. So what two aspects of the structure do you think we should be focusing on if you were trying to change this situation?
Can I just respond? Actually, my own personal feeling does not matter what structure we adopt. What is more important is the values. So especially our
ongoing debate.
But in academia, we talk in academia. The academic values, especially with regard to ethics and all, is something I think we have to focus on, especially now. Especially now, the present scenario in academia with regard to, taking from the association point of view, say 25, 30 years ago, in our meetings with all the associations, we seldom talk about salary or promotion. We talk about academic freedom, academic environment, but today, almost every meeting when we get together, we talk about promotion and salary. This is, I think, something that is very serious. That the younger generation, I don't blame them, because the academic profession has actually deteriorated in terms of quality of living. Let me just give a quick example. Say in the late 70s, university lecturer, a salary of about 1,000 with PhD, can get a car loan for 12,000 ringgit. This is a public university, I'm talking about public university. Car loan 12,000 ringgit, housing loan 40,000 ringgit. But with 12,000 ringgit, that particular academic staff can take out a brand new Volvo. 45,000, housing loan of 400,000 ringgit. With 45,000 ringgit, you can't even get 1/4 of a Volvo. You know? And with 400,000 ringgit housing loan in Penang Island, you cannot even get a single story terrace house. So,
the main concern is
no, because the status of an academic, you spend 23 years of your life to get a PhD, and you are, you are actually poor in certain ways because the buying power of your salary is no more there. Those days we can afford to go for conference on our own pocket money. Nowadays, if the university doesn't fund, most young researchers will not go. Because conferences are not cheap. Even this one is not cheap. So I think what is important is the value. We must instill in the younger academic the value.
Sorry, I don't get it.
Because if we change the structure, nothing will change.
Is this what value are you talking about?
Honesty, values of, not just money. I don't agree with money, but honesty and then the passion to teach, impart knowledge, integrity. These values are very, very important. There's no empathy today. No empathy. I think most associations will say if we have our annual general meeting, I have to stand by the road and stop people and just sign their attendance. They can't even get the forum. For the education. There's a lot of empathy.
That's community engagement. Community.
I want to regarding to in my opinion, there's very good project for the of but in reality, the community engagement also ended the because academic for promotion as well. Because when you transfer knowledge, the community build knowledge and they are wake up from their sleep consciousness or false consciousness. But when they build the knowledge, they wake up. When they wake up, this impacts the political interest in the area. So if we say the community
So you need to change the structure of the university then?
Yeah.
When you take consciousness, another steps when we talk about the informed consult, then the last part is to empower them. That is the process of Then if they wake up and they actually question, and they start to change political parties. From what is
changing the university structure that punishes you for changing the university. The structure of the university has to be changed. If they punishes you, it punishes you because you're doing good things. So it has to change. The structure of the university has to change. Exactly what's happening.
That's our intention. But how do we get this?
This is what happened. So not want to take part.
How to balance it? How to balance it?
We cannot do it. We cannot do it. We have to change it.
There's another connotation there. Yeah, go.
But you can also look at
exactly. And really, I left with life, with force to comply with all these conditions and to we will be pushed by our own management in its skills. Because I think that language, the pockets of the institutions that publish our education, I'm just thinking about domination and taking us back to the power that dominates us, that we have to do this. And on top of that, our own enforcement is pushing us to feel as a force. And to do this.